and Governance Committee of this council year. We have received apologies from the Chair, Councillor Brooker, for this evening. As Vice Chair, I have stepped in to chair this meeting. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may also be used for training purposes. Anyone else recording or filming from within the room must not obstruct the view of councillors, officers, the public and press, and that flash photography must not be used unless it has been agreed beforehand. Item 1, apologies. We have received apologies from Councillor Brooker and our independent member, Peter Trevert. Councillor Graham has also sent apologies, and Councillor Chambers is standing in for him. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. 3, minutes. On the agenda item, minutes, are members happy to approve as the correct record the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, the 4th of March, 2024? Yeah, okay. Everyone seems to have approved them, who is here anyway. Great, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening to you and to the committee. And as this is a new committee, I'll just introduce myself and my colleague as well. So my name is Piyush Fatania. I'm the head of Audit, Risk and Assurance, shortened to ARA. And this is Spencer Williams, who is our principal auditor and the new lead auditor for Gloucester City Council as well. So there's a number of reports from ARA this evening, so I hope you don't get tired of my voice by the end of this. I was hoping, Chair, just take you very briefly through the items one by one, and then to take any questions which myself and Spencer will try to answer. If there's anything that we can't answer, then we will happily take those away and get back to the committee as soon as we can via email, if that's okay with you. So the first item then, Chair, on page 15 is the annual risk management report. So risk management, Chair, is a key part of the Council's corporate governance framework and indeed the internal control environment as well. So the Council owns and is responsible for managing all of its risks. What this annual report does is to support the Council's risk management work and highlights the advice and support that has been provided by ARA during the year. So very quickly, just to take you through the report, Section 1 identifies the benefits of risk management to the Council and helping the Council to achieve all of its objectives, and also highlights some of the key roles within the Council. Section 2 then develops on these roles and links risk management to governance and to the annual governance statement as well. And the risk management framework is explained here. Can I just say there is a small typo in paragraph 2.2 where we refer to the Director of Policy and Resources, whereas that should actually refer to the Head of Finance and Resources. So apologies for that, Chair. There is then also a chart which tracks the Council's residual risks over the last few years, last 4 years in fact, and shows a generally consistent trend, I would suggest, over that period of time. These assurances, they help me by helping to feed into the annual report of the Head of Internal Audit, which is on your agenda for a little bit later. Section 3 then talks about risk management and how that relates to the work of internal audit. And Section 4 mentions some of the developments which in 2024-25 will be coming along. So that includes a risk management plan and as well as an assurance map. So the committee chair is asked to endorse this annual report and to satisfy yourselves that the risk management arrangements in place during 2023-24 were effective. I'll pause there and happy, Chair, to take any questions. Excuse me.
Does anyone have any questions for this, Councillor Chambers?
Thank you, Chair. If we can turn to page, for the Quality Assurance and Improvement Programme, page 147.
We'll be coming on to that.
Okay, no problem. So I thought we'd just go on to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question then, if it's a broad question before we go into the nuts and bolts of it. Would risk management be managing the risk of assets that the City Council own and run?
It should do.
Okay. What's been the investigation and outcome of the dangerous Longsmith car park that got closed following my audit of the building?
Okay. Can I refer that to the Section 151 officer, please?
Sorry, Councillor Chambers, can you repeat the question?
I was made aware just now that the City Council audit and risk team are obviously responsible for City Council assets. So my question was, on that basis, what internal risk investigation was found following the dangerous situation and problematic issues surrounding the Longsmith car park, given that it was a danger to the public and remained open? And it was only following myself contacting the fire chief and the internal council's building control that it was closed following structural investigations. I can't see anything in any of the reports on that basis to highlight the improper and inadequate maintenance of council assets. Why is it not in the report? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't believe that the report works on detailed assets as such. It's around the whole portfolio of risks as opposed to any specific individual assets like Longsmith. So I think we'd have to have an actual audit of that to get a specific.
No, thank you. So you're saying it's a high-level assessment of risk, is that correct?
Yeah.
So surely there should be a section in there under property that it wasn't obviously acceptable, given that one of the buildings was very, very dangerous and it only closed following my alerting of the building. I'm failing to see why it's been classed as acceptable when obviously having a building in the public domain that's highly dangerous that had to immediately get closed for a substantial amount of time, over half a year. Why is that not listed as, I'll say, unacceptable? Thank you.
Within the report as a whole, that the report is acceptable?
Yeah, and the report as a whole, it's shown that the assets are classed as acceptable. My understanding of that, if you've got one asset that's dangerous and it's open to the public, it cannot be classed as acceptable in the risk management, because that's not acceptable and it should be a significant failing in that department. Why has that not been highlighted?
Are we talking about the internal assessment or Pierce's assessment?
With regards to internal assessment, obviously the City Council officers are fully aware that the building was shut for a substantial amount of time, given that it was in a very, very dangerous state of affair. So much so that the fire chief and building control immediately shut the building following my assessment of the structural implications and damages with the building. So my point, again, my question is why is the City Council's risk audit report showing that the City Council has operated acceptably when buildings have fell far short of being acceptable and have been highly dangerous? That is not, it should not be referenced as acceptable in the report by no, you know what I mean? So my question is why has it been classed as acceptable when there's been buildings that are far short of being acceptable and highly dangerous to the public?
Chair, this is an annual report, so it's about it's risk management in general and how the council manages its risk. It's not about a specific risk. In terms of potentially the car park, that should be reflected, I would suggest, in the strategic risk register as an individual risk, and that would be monitored by management. This report is not about an individual risk in particular.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. So what I'm trying to say is maybe I should just try and explain myself a bit better, and apologies that I have not done so. My point is at high level, how can asset management be classed as acceptable when there's evidence to prove it's highly unacceptable? That's my question.
I mean, the other thing, Chair, is that this report does refer back to 2023-24, so it's over the span of the previous year, and you know, not in sort of individual issues which have occurred more recently.
Thank you for clarifying that. So just to finalise very quickly, I appreciate you saying that is previous years and not the immediate years that have just passed. However, looking at the maintenance records of not just that in particular building, but several council buildings, I noticed that there was failures with NICIC certification, fire risk management, escape management, fire signage, and also fire mains with water suppressant that should have been checked, which had fails on all the certification that I looked at numerous amounts of building, and they went back several years. So what qualities, what assurances are you going to give me as a councillor and also representing the public that city council buildings going forward are going to be risk assessed accordingly, and this failure of the city council risk audit team from generations for the last decade will be addressed?
I mean, the thing is, Chair, in terms of...
I'm just wondering why this gentleman's staring at me. Sorry. Is that okay? You okay?
I wasn't staring.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. You're making me feel uneasy. Thank you.
Oh.
Sorry, that's right. I think, Councillor Chambers, if you're talking about in terms of the work that internal audit undertake, then that is informed obviously by the council's risk registers, as well as discussions with management. So, and I'm more than happy to take this offline, but potentially yourself and the strategic, as the Section 151 officer, if you have any particular concerns about that, then, you know, I would be more than happy to look into that. And if there's a potential piece of work that we could undertake, if you feel, you know, there are dangerous structures, for example, or in some way the council isn't managing that risk effectively, I'd be more than happy, Chair, to take that discussion offline.
That's very kind. I'd like to meet with you after the meeting, if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Can I say thank you very much for bringing a resolution to that and for being happy to take this to another, perhaps more suitable place to discuss, okay, when you can have the information you need at hand to answer the questions. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Could the committee please bear with me? I am actually deaf in one ear at the moment, so just if I say pardon too many times. Yeah, you're fine, thank you. On the strategic risk register, page 33, SRR 1.1 talks about the non-achievement of the money plan. And we know that there was a predicted overspend at one stage, I think, of 1.2 million. I believe that reduced finally to 288k. And I just wondered, I mean, obviously it's good that the underspend came down from 1.2 to 288, but it still suggests to me that the risk measures in place are not helpful in terms of continuing to underspend. What other risks or control factors need to be put in place to ensure that we don't keep perpetually overspending on budget?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Pullin. As you mentioned, the outturn at the start of or the forecast outturn in Q1 was a 1.5 million deficit, and that came down to 288,000. But that wasn't necessarily a result of ongoing annual risks, if you like. That was largely down to some very specific national issues, which we got hit with in one financial year. The purpose of the risk register is to essentially manage that risk over the medium to short term. And as you can see from the figures there, we've highlighted that there was a significant risk, hence why the original score was 16. But the mitigating actions that we feel we've brought in reduces that risk down in order to avoid ongoing risks in the future or ongoing financial pressures. But like I say, I think last year we were very unfortunate with the temporary housing issue and obviously the inflationary pressures, which caused a massive issue for this council and others.
So if I can come back, are you happy now that the existing control measures in place will be adequate to make sure that this perpetual situation with overspend isn't going to carry forward?
Yes, I think the controls that are there are satisfactory. As I say, I think the overspend was down to specific issues, both in the previous financial year and, if you remember rightly, the year before that, we unfortunately was a cyber attack, and both of those, unfortunately, are outside of my specific. Although we can put high-level controls in place, it's very difficult to cover off something as specific as that.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No?
Okay. Sorry, Chair. I noticed that question was on the reports. Are we going into the reports now, or?
Yeah, we'll go
Thank
through
you.
the different reports. So the second one is the annual report for the Audit and Governance Committee. It's, as members are previously advised, we have received apologies from the Chair, so I'll pass over to the Head of Audit and Risk Assurance to introduce the report. Again.
Excuse me. Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. So on page 49, you have the Chair's annual report, which highlights the work of the committee throughout 2023-24. So very briefly, there is a forward to the report, which is sort of written by the Chair. Section 1 then describes the purpose of the report and the role of the committee, which is further developed in Section 2 of the report. Section 3 just confirms and highlights the membership of the committee during 2023-24. And Section 4 goes through some of the achievements, if you like, the highlights of the business that was conducted during the meetings of the committee in 2023-24. And so what this report does, it provides independent assurance to the council that the council has in place effective governance, risk management and internal control frameworks, as well as just confirm that it has an effective internal and external audit. So committee are asked to approve this report, and then it is for the Chair to present it to the next full council meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on this? The next item on the agenda is the annual report of the Head of Audit, Risk and Assurance.
Okay, Chair, I think you need to approve the last item.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I approve. Is that? We approve. Do we approve?
As I think I was probably the only member of the previous committee, other than with respect to Councillor Wilson, I'm happy to approve the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, Chair, thank you very much. So this is the annual report of the Head of Internal Audit on page 61 of your agenda. And I'm required to present this report to the committee in accordance with the Public Sector Internal Audit Standards, which are shortened to SIAS. And they require me to provide this report. And so the committee, you are asked to assess from the findings in the report whether you have reasonable assurance that the internal control environment, which consists of the risk management, control and governance, was operating effectively over 23-24. Secondly, to note internal audit's performance and that it meets the required standards. I'll take you through very quickly, Chair, the salient bits of the report as well. But just with your permission, if at this point, if I just may take a moment to thank my team, the internal audit team, for their hard work and diligence throughout the year. And really, this report is based on and is a reflection of their wonderful work throughout the year. And may I also please just thank officers and members of the council as well, who have supported us throughout the year with our work. So section 1 is just the introduction, which sets out the purpose and the regulatory background for internal audit's work and the requirements for this annual report. In section 2, Chair, you then have the overall opinion itself, which I am pleased to say is acceptable. I also confirm here that there have been no limitations or resource constraints on the work of our that have affected our work throughout the year. Section 3 then takes you through the code of ethics, which we must professionally abide by. Section 4 then provides some salient messages, if you like, based on the work that we undertook in 2023-24, including that of the counter-fraud team. And as you just heard a moment ago, some of these have been recognised and added to the strategic risk register as well. So our work does inform the risk management work of the council. And then we end in section 5 with just some performance parameters. And I'm especially delighted to say, Chair, that we achieved 86% of the annual audit plan against a target of 85%. So again, thanks to the team. And also, after each internal audit report, we always issue a customer survey. So for managers, just to fill out how the auditor performed, how they found our work. And I can, again, happy to say that 100% were either good or excellent. So again, a tremendous result by the team. So that's the annual report, and happy to take any questions on that.
Yes, Councillor, I can't read your name. Yes, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name.
I'll read on.
I apologise.
That's all right. It's there, isn't it? Thank you for the report. I noticed on section 2.1 that the opinions that overall an acceptable level of insurance can be provided. Do we know what's required to get us from acceptable to substantial assurance?
Good question.
Yes, Chair. So my overall opinion is based on the span of work that we have undertaken throughout 2023-24. And what I would suggest is for the council to achieve that, the majority would have had to have been the individual audit reports each get a level of assurance. And so the majority of those, if they were substantial, for example, that would contribute to an overall substantial. The other thing is, so the council, unfortunately, had a couple of reports which were limited, and even in amongst some of the reports which were of an acceptable level of assurance overall, in amongst that, you may have had some high-level observations and recommendations, high-risk observations and recommendations. And so if we can reduce those over the span of a year, then that would give me the ability to be able to potentially give a substantial level of assurance.
Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. Point 4.3 on page 71 talks about some of the financial audits found that in the wake of the cyber incident, not all accounting reconciliations were up to date. We're aware of this, and that some audits would need to be deferred. Is that going to be possible? Are we able to get that information back, or will we have to come to a conclusion that that information isn't any longer available and we're not able to audit? Just a bit of clarity on that, please.
Certainly in terms of the deferred audit, so they were just put later down the line, if I can put it that way. So instead of being, if we weren't able to undertake them in 23-24, we would include them potentially in 24-25. So it's just a case of being able to get access to the systems once the information was available, because as you know, and I see Councillor Wilson, a lot of the previous committee, committee's time was spent on the recovery from the cyber incident. So it's just a case of waiting until the information we need is available. So that's what that deferred audits refers to.
Okay, and have we any idea of a timescale of that? Because obviously you'll want to conclude those audits at some stage or other and finish the situation.
I couldn't tell you the exact timescale, but if we did carry them over into 24-25, they will be part of the internal audit plan, which is later on your agenda. But I don't know off the top of my head which particular quarter those audits would fall into.
Okay, thank you.
On to number 9 on the agenda.
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
Chair, sorry, I wasn't sure if there's anyone else ahead of me. Apologies. Yeah, if we could turn to page 71, if that's okay. Item 4.6. So about the risk of fraud nationally, and authorities remain a target. It says about policies to maintain a web page and provide advice and assistance to anyone wishing to report suspected fraud. Given that on page 70, item 3.5, section V, says about openness and holders of public office should act and take decisions in an open and transparent manner. Why did it take the council so long to advise the members of the public that there had been a data breach and their personal information, names, addresses, date of births, potentially national insurance numbers, sort codes, account numbers, and their addresses had been taken by a criminal organisation, bearing in mind that the City Council was aware of the cyber attack well before Christmas, and then people obviously leaving them in a financial situation? Why did it take the City Council over half a year to inform the public that all their private and confidential information had been leaked by the City Council? Thank you.
Can I refer you to the Section 151 officer, please, for a response to the cyber incident?
Yes, there's the cyber incident has been well documented now, and we've recently had reports which have set out the findings from the cyber incident. We were taking advice at the time from different parties who advised the council the best approach with regards to that incident at the time, and that's the advice that the council obviously took that advice and worked in that way. I don't think there's anything else to add between this report and the cyber incident with regards to that fraud aspect.
Thank you very much. On page 88, internal audit reviews with governance themes, section 4.1. You've got the housing, homelessness and rough sleeping strategy. Has this report been issued? Because I see that there's other ones that have been, some audits were postponed, so I'm just trying to understand which one have been postponed. So you've got marketing strategy, climate change and carbon reduction, asset management, and then there's homelessness in a different section.
could you pin that question, please?
Because, yeah, if you turn to page 88.
Yeah, no. The reason is because that's the next item. So once I get to that,
apologies.
I'll be happy to take your questions. Yeah, I'm going through each of the agenda items sort of one by one. So
no problem. Yeah, when we get to it, remind me. Thank you. Cheers. Okay. Apologies for that. Thank you.
Thank you. That leads us on to item 9, the annual governance statement 2023 and 24. Can I head back to the head of audit, risk and assurance?
I told you, you might get sick of me this evening. Thank you, Chair. So on page 73, you have the annual governance statement. If I just very quickly take you through the committee through the report. So section 1, Chair, takes you through the legislative background, which sets out the requirements to produce an annual governance statement, which we just call AGS for short. So if I refer to AGS, that's what I'm talking about. So section 1 describes its purpose and why we have it. So the council is responsible for ensuring that its business is conducted in accordance with the law and proper standards, and that public money is safeguarded and properly accounted for. And so what the AGS does is describe how the council has done this. The AGS needs to be approved, so you'll take a vote and once you're happy with it, and approved by this committee. And you need to do that ahead of the statutory accounts as well, Chair, because the statutory accounts are based on the systems and processes that the AGS is giving you assurance on. So that's just for your information. The leader and chief executive, or the managing director in the case of City Council, should sign this off, which they have done ahead of the committee meeting. And so it's then up to the committee to provide the final approval of the AGS on behalf of the council. Section 2 mentions that the council has developed a code of corporate governance called the Code, which defines the principles and the practices that underpin its governance arrangements. And here the AGS mentions the attributes of the corporate governance framework and how the council adheres to this, including in some detail how the council complies with the 7 principles of the code, which are listed in the report. Section 3 describes how the council reviews the effectiveness of its governance framework. Section 4, there is a brief update on governance issues relating to 23-24 that were previously reported. And then Section 5 provides sort of an overall opinion on the council's governance arrangements and how the council has maintained appropriate governance in its business throughout the year. Section 6, Chair, then describes areas that the council should just be mindful of in the current financial year. And Section 7 then is the certification of the AGS by the leader of the council and the managing director. In Appendix A, there is a diagram which just shows pictorially what the council's governance framework is and how this all comes together. And so the committee are asked to review and approve the AGS, Chair. Happy to take questions.
Does anyone have any questions for this?
Yes, thank you. If I can refer back to page 88 with regards to the internal audit reviews with governance themes, section 4.1. Just trying to make sense of it, really. Might be something straightforward, but I'm just kind of not getting grips with it. The housing and homelessness and rough sleeping strategy. So this has been issued as a final report. So has that actually gone to council, that report?
It would have come to this committee, Chair. Okay. Yeah. It wouldn't go to the full council.
Thank you. I know that there's other audits that have been postponed. Marketing strategy, climate change, and also asset management. Given the significant failings around asset management, would it not be worthwhile to raise that up, the list of risks, and make that a priority risk to manage asset management, as I've looked forward in some of the plans which I'll get to later? And I note that there is significant failings identified with the asset management therefore, can we look to, obviously, seeing as that risk's a lot higher, could we look to ensure that that's looked at next, if that's possible?
I mean, what we do, Chair, is so we produce the annual internal audit plan and we arrange with management indicative timelines for undertaking those work, which sometimes is determined by, for example, if a particular department or service is particularly busy, we have to just arrange that audit at a particular time. So if it's included in our internal audit plan, it will get done. Sometimes we can bring stuff forward. Sometimes we might have to defer stuff. It's a very agile plan, a very flexible plan. And as I say, we discuss with management. Spencer will be doing that and keeping on top of that and arranging the timeline for particular audits.
Thank you very much for that. My final question on this section is page 89, and it's section, I think it's the last section of 4, is the page at the top of page 89, and it says the council has put in place many measures which have been reported internally but will not be mentioned here that have helped improve the council's resilience. Is there any way of identifying what those issues were that have been reported internally which have been looked at to be improved?
Yeah. Chair, there is another item on your agenda later. In general, when it comes to ICT issues, we don't generally discuss those in public quite often because they just go into a level of detail which could be of assistance to sort of the bad people out there, if I can put it that way. And so it's to protect the council. And that's why it's not mentioned specifically in this part of the report, because this report is public, but the issues behind it, we need to safeguard the council.
Any more questions on this agenda item? Can we move to approve this agenda item? The next item on the agenda is the Counter Fraud Team Annual Report 2023 to 2024.
Nearly there, Chair, nearly there. Nearly there. Okay, so thank you very much, Chair. The next item on page 93 of your agenda pack is the annual report of the Counter Fraud Team. So we've already alluded in the annual report of the Head of Internal Audit on the work of our Counter Fraud Team. And so there's a separate annual report that I produce, but just to emphasise the important work that the Counter Fraud Team do, we have a separate annual report based purely on their work. And what this report does is to summarise their work and just produce a high-level overview of the work streams for the City Council. And the report covers referral and case statistics. As I just said, some of the high-level work streams identified by them, as well as individual actions identified by the original plan. And there's also the annual fraud transparency data relating to the previous year as well. So happy to take any questions on that, Chair.
Councillor Weidenhold.
Councillor Weidenhold.
My apologies.
That's all right, Madam Chair. I have a question about whistleblowing. When I looked at the council's website, I found it difficult to immediately, as a member of the public, find out how to report a concern. There's something about the complaints page. When you click on the link, it doesn't work. And I'm confident that people within the council who have a concern would probably be able to report such and via the whistleblowing process, and then probably are aware of it. But I'm concerned that members of the public might struggle to report anything that ought to be raised.
If I can answer that one, we're just in the process of introducing a new website or a web page, sorry, on both the external and internal sides of our internet and intranet, specifically for counter fraud. And within that web page, it will include specific links to the whistleblowing policy going forward.
Thank you. So at the moment, the live web page doesn't have those links, but you're assuring me that they will soon be available to the public.
Yeah. So the whistleblowing policy is available internally at the moment. I'm not sure whether it's available externally, but going forward, we're going to have a specific web page which will capture it all in one place, so that it's easy for both officers and external individuals to find the policy.
Thank you. Do we have a timescale for when that will be dealt with?
It might be done already. I'll have to check and get back to you. But it should be imminent. Just waiting for it to be put online. So I believe it's all been prepared. It's just a case of actually being uploaded.
Thank you.
Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. Page 99, towards the bottom, 2.1, talks about referrals relating to the council. And the second box talks about 7 cases relating to council carried forward from previous years. Now, we know that there were some fraud cases concerning misuse of COVID grants and COVID funds. Do we know whether they were resolved and addressed, or are they still included in the category here?
Chair, would I be able to get back to you on that, please, and just check the detail with the team? If that's okay, I'll get back to you on that.
Of course, as I said, we do know that, you know, that was discussed, that has been discussed previously. So I think it would be important to know to what extent those issues have been addressed and hopefully resolved. Thank you.
Can you make a note of that? Get back to Caroline, please. Thanks.
Do we need to approve this report?
So, Chair, there is an action plan as part of this report. So, yes, you are required to approve this report, please. Yes.
Does the committee approve this report? The next item is Internal Audit Charter and Code of Ethics.
Thank you, Chair. So on page 111 of your agenda pack, you have the Internal Audit Charter and Code of Ethics. So the public sector internal audit standards, which I have referred to a moment ago, they require that internal audit within local government produces this a charter, that it should be maintained. And the reason is because this actually defines our role, as it were, why we do what we do. So it's why we do what we do, but also a little bit about how we do it. So it is in essence our mandate to undertake the work that we do throughout the council, and it gives us actually our authority to undertake the work, because as you know, Chair, we have access to all the council's offices, all the council's documents and information. And if somebody were to say, you know, why? It's because the committee has approved our charter. So we do keep this under review and periodically review it. And it's also approved by senior management, but it requires also, Chair, for you to approve.
Does anyone have any questions on this matter?
Sorry, just to clarify, which document we're looking at the moment? So I just have one in front of me.
We are doing number 11, agenda item, Internal Audit Charter and Code of Ethics.
We've got the internal audit activity, but that's later on, isn't it? Is that correct? Cool. No problem. No, I'm good on that one. Cheers.
So is the committee happy to approve this? Okay. Following on, agenda number 12.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the Quality Assurance and Improvement Plan, euphemistically referred to as the QAPE, depending on which part of the country you're from and what your accent is, but we refer to it as the QAPE. And so this is designed to provide you with some assurance, the committee and the council, that and to stakeholders as well, members of the public, that the service that internal audit provides, that it is in accordance with the charter that you have just approved and is consistent with the public sector internal audit standards, that internal audit operates in an effective and efficient manner and is perceived by stakeholders as adding value and continually improving the way that we actually work. So this is about how we work and how we ensure that we not only provide a quality service now, but what our plans are going forward to ensure that we maintain the level of quality as well, Chair. So again, happy to take questions, but again, your approval of this plan, I'd be grateful for.
Does anyone have any questions on this matter? Does the committee approve of this agenda item?
So thank you, Chair. So on page 157 of your agenda pack, you have the regular, this is a regular report. The others come annually. They won't come to every single meeting. But this particular report will come to every single meeting of the committee, and it's to inform the committee of the work that we have undertaken. As I mentioned, we have an internal audit progress plan, and what this report does is to show, the outcome of the work that we have undertaken, in this case, up to sort of around mid-June time, so just about three or so weeks ago. But it also gives you summaries of the individual pieces of work that we have undertaken. And so those are listed on page 162. We provide a table which lists each of the pieces of work and the overall level of assurance that was provided, as well as highlighting the number of high, medium and low recommendations. So happy to take questions on this report, Chair.
Sorry, Chair, to clarify, just because there are several reports, is this the progress report on internal audit activity?
That's right.
Page 161 starting on?
That's right.
Thank you. I've got some questions, but if anyone else is free, they can welcome to go first while I get them.
Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. And I think this probably alludes to the point that Councillor Chambers was raising earlier. On page 167.
That's my question. That's good.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. It talks about the governance framework around building maintenance is not effective. Several different spreadsheets to log and monitor repairs. This is an issue. And could this result in issues being missed, unreported or inactioned? And as Councillor Chambers rightly points out, this probably refers, and I say probably, refers to what has been happening at Longsmith Street car park.
Yes, Chair. So that does refer to the monitoring of the council's facilities and just ensuring that there is a consistent process around that. I think what this report found was that there were, as it mentions, different spreadsheets. So we need a single place where everything can be recorded. We also need consistency in how risks are assessed. I think there are potentially some differences in the risk ratings that were used by different officers. So, what might be a high to you might be a medium to me, might be a low to somebody else. So it's just about getting consistency, but also ensuring that these issues are reported upwards to management for effective monitoring.
Okay, so we have identified an issue and there will be processes put in place to rationalise, to formalise it and frankly make sure that things don't drop through the net because we're working 2 or 3 different systems. Is that what we're saying?
That's right, Chair. So if you look on the next page, 167, you can see where the recommendation is. So the facilities manager has agreed the findings and has also agreed to the recommendations. So they will be documenting and defining a consistent risk rating process. They will also be looking at management information reporting to ensure that all issues are recorded consistently in one place and that they are reported to management. So going forwards, what you describe, that there should be an improvement upon that.
Okay, well, let's certainly hope that's the case. Thank you.
Councillor Chambers, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. Just the title of this date, July 2024. What year or year period was this report based on? As you said before, ones were based on previous years.
Sorry, which page are you looking at, please, Councillor Chambers?
The title of the progress report, internal audit, stated July 2024. What year was this audit, internal audit, based on?
Which audit? Sorry. That's the date of this report here.
So when was this data collected?
I'm not sure. I'm with you.
So Councillor Pullen suggested years 23, 24, or is it years 22?
Oh no. This. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm with you now. Sorry. Yeah. It was in June this year, Chair. So that's mid-June. Yeah.
Right, thank you. So off the basis of that, I definitely won't be able to support this and vote towards this report. I'll give you the reasons why. If you turn to page 167, item 254. I'll wait till you're all at that item. Then you've got item 2 on page 167. Item 25. It says car park monitoring is undertaken by an outsourced provider and the service is being monitored adequately. That's not the case. I've got several photos on my phone that I took this morning at Longsmith car park where there's live cables exposed to the public at head height, 230 volt cables exposed, a high pressured water main that's still got the test certificate on it displayed to the public with fail. And that's consistent throughout the building. And these areas that are open to the public already, I'm not talking about closed areas. And there's probably 6 areas of bare cables. This was going to discuss with you afterwards, but as soon as I see that's based on this year, I would like to share them with the members here, but it's very concerning. There's areas of metal containment open with bare cables exposed. When I mean bare cables, these are live cables that have got copper ends sticking out. There's several lights that are live lights, again with bare connectors. So this report, I can't support it. I
think, Chair, in terms of this report, so in terms of the scope of this report, we're not structural engineers, so we don't physically go out. What this objective was to ensure that the actual monitoring, so in this case, what we're saying is it's undertaken by a contractor. It wasn't about how well the contractor is doing their job, it's about how well we monitor what they're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the processes within the council, not the actual what the contractor is doing.
Okay, that's even raised more concerns off the back of your said, because what you just said then, as if I repeat word for word, is that this process is what the council do, not what the organisation, the car park management company does, and it's about your monitoring of that car park organisation. That monitoring's failed because the car park's unfit or unsafe.
I'd have to bring because this is an issue for the council, not for internal audit.
Okay.
So,
but if this can be looked at as a matter of urgency, because it does raise significant health and safety concern, and the legal obligations of the City Council are failing the public on 1974 Health and Safety Act, bearing in mind that the building is very, very dangerous, even at its open state. So what I'm going back to is it says it's being monitored adequately by the parking officers. That I beg to differ. That is definitely not the case.
Sorry, Councillor Chambers, you've seen this today, did you say? Are you able to obviously share what you found so that we can obviously investigate it? Did you share it afterwards if you like? Yeah, that's great. And then we can obviously get the asset management team to follow that up and make sure it's addressed ASAP.
Councillor Burkett.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Chambers raises some very important points. And going back to section 2.5.4, part 2, he talks about car park monitoring not being adequate. That section refers to the jobs of parking officers. Parking officers, I don't think, deal with structural maintenance of the car park, but Councillor Chambers' point still stands, because section 3 below, it does recognise as a risk that isn't being that the maintenance of the structural integrity of the building is not being handled effectively, and I think Councillor Chambers just really hits the message home there that that's a point and it needs to be tackled properly. Is that my correct understanding? Or?
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, Spencer just confirmed. I mean, that's absolutely right. So we have identified where there are gaps in the monitoring and of maintenance of the council structures, and that is what that finding is alluding to.
Can I just follow up and ask when those when that analysis that building maintenance was not effective was first brought up and added to your findings? What date was that?
I'd have to go back to look at the exact date of the report, but as I say, this is a very current report, so it would have been within
the last quarter. This is a quarter.
Within the last
This is a
3 months.
report, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just, comes under my portfolio, so I was just going to ask Alistair Chambers if he could forward me those on as well, and I'll get it looked into as a matter of urgency.
Councillor Chambers?
Thank you, Chair. I've also got another 2 questions. One with regards to page 165, item, third one down, second one down. As of the 15th of November 2023, there were 126 business accounts with a total credit balances of approximately £500,000. Review and clearance of these credit balances is not high priority and therefore resources not fully devoted to the prompt investigation and return of overpayments. My concern is this, the council forecast accounts, if I remember for this year, were in deficit of around £30,000. This would potentially put the council in a £470,000 black rather than being in the red. Why are these accounts not looked at into, bearing in mind we're sort of like 8 months later and the interest on £500,000 is quite a significant amount? And that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The actual way the Open Rev system works and business rates are subject to check, challenge and review, basically. So with the business rateable value of a property is set at any point in time. There were a lot of the valuation office during 2023-24 closed off a lot of the 2010 and 2017 challenges that were long outstanding. On the 15th of November or during November, those were processed. Those changes which were agreed by the valuation office were processed into the system. The way the system works is it creates a load of backdate. It backdates it. So if something's been challenged since 2010 with the valuation office, not with the council, with the valuation office, but if it's been sitting there waiting for a resolution, it backdates it and sets the 2010 invoice, 2011, 2012, 2013, and if it's settled at a different valuation in 2023, as it would have been, it backdates all that. And on the system, when you run a report off, it throws out all those numbers. It's just an unfortunate time in here where that had gone onto the system, and we looked into it, or I challenged the team to look into it, to get the data. And basically they were things that had happened and been processed in that last quarter. So they weren't ancient accounts, and they have all been resolved subsequently. The bigger numbers were with one particular company who had challenged, who had challenged it and been successful. And some of them relate to the council because the museums thing was settled, and we received rent rebates as well. So that's a bit of a, they aren't all immediately there.
Thank you. Do you know what the actual figure is approximately owned to the City Council at the moment? If those figures are just not falling correct?
It's not that they weren't falling correct. They were correct at that point in time, but they weren't relating to long outstanding, I suppose is the point. And at any point in time, I don't know if you immediately know the number. I would have to go and ask the Refs and Ben's team what the current position is. But it has, as I say, there was a lot of work done by the valuation office to close off all the old ones because they'd started moving to a triennial cycle. Okay.
Councillor Harris had a question.
Yes, on point 252, item 3, there's a recommendation and it talks around there being an error in a spreadsheet that is to be fixed and undertake review and checks resulting from that. Also in 254, is it 254? I think I've lost my place. There's more talk of 254.3, talk of several spreadsheets in use. Do we have a problem with too many spreadsheets being used? Because I know working in IT, it's very easy to get the wrong query put in an Excel spreadsheet. Do we need to be investigating use of more managed software systems that can manage this data for us as opposed to spreadsheets which are very prone to error?
I'm aware of one of those spreadsheets, which was it's not a spreadsheet we use on a day-to-day basis. It's one that we use, and it was just to calculate the average position of a potential indicator on the Treasury Management Report. So it wasn't something that it was a disclosure information as opposed to anything specific which would impact on the council. Which was the one that you mentioned? Sorry, which one?
It was
the asset one. Sorry, so the asset one. Sorry, so it's difficult because it's different departments, I suppose, and what their requirements are. I think from within finance, for example, we'd expect to use a lot of spreadsheets because due to the nature of the business. I'm not 100% sure how other departments use spreadsheets on a daily basis. I know from this, obviously from this recommendation, asset management are looking to introduce a specific module, if you like, from a system, as you alluded to, really, to get away from the spreadsheet in order to have something a bit more fit for purpose. So it all depends on what the issue is, really. But I don't think we can stop using a number of spreadsheets, unfortunately. But it's just making sure we're using them for the correct purposes where we can.
You mentioned that the one spreadsheet in use wasn't used very often, and so it was probably why an error was allowed to get through and not spotted. Do we have many processes in place for second pair of eyes checks on these spreadsheets, or is there some additional documentation or guidance that needs to go along with these documents? So if it's something that only happens every 6 months, 12 months, that people can read a guide just to refamiliarise themselves if it's not something that they're used to using in a day-to-day business.
With regards to the finance one, we have got processes in place. I think in this instance it was just the case that it just happened to be, it coincided with a new member of staff at the same time. So it just got missed off just by accident. But I wouldn't expect it to happen on a regular basis, because I wouldn't expect the figures to be changing, because in this case we're talking about historic loans, which once they're put onto the spreadsheet don't get taken off. They're just put on once and then they're not changed. So I don't think so in this case.
Councillor Barkett first, Councillor Chambers then.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed on page 162, contract management, the assurance level was just given an advisory so far, and the number of recommendations is not applicable yet. Going down to that section 2.8, the relevant section there, part 8, mentions that we established from discussions with procurement specialists and the financial services manager that there is currently no formal senior management oversight process in place. Just going back to the table, just wondering when the assurance level will be given, criteria based on section 2.2 with regards to senior management not yet having a process in place.
I mean, in terms of this was a piece of consultancy work, if you like, and we don't provide assurance levels for consultancy work.
Okay, you don't provide assurance for outsourced?
No, it's not outsourced.
Outsourced?
No, it's done by us, but it's a different type of work. It's not an audit, it's an advisory piece of work.
Okay, with that, thanks.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to page 170, item 2.5.8, key findings of contracts management. Item 2 says a formal written contract is required for all procurements in excess of £25,000. I've seen several instances, which I can provide to you afterwards, following also investigations myself and Freedom of Information, of many contracts that have been issued well over the £25,000 maximum for contract initiation, that have been issued to contractors that haven't gone through a due diligence and tender process of obtaining at least 3 prices of taxpayers' money, and have been issued, A, without a contract, and 2, without following the processes of tendering, which is set out by the council. I'm more than happy to provide those out of the meeting, obviously, because I don't want to name and shame officers. But my concern is if that's happening, and I've got evidence to prove that a contractor who was awarded the work was a friend of the officer, what assurances have taxpayers got going forward that issues that I'm advising, which haven't been proven, but I'm advising, have potentially taken place based on evidence I provide you? What assurance have the taxpayers got that taxpayers' money will be taken care of and safeguarded so the taxpayer gets maximum benefit for their money?
I mean, the first thing I would say, Chair, is I think the question is alluding more to perhaps procurement rather than actual contract management, which is after the event. However, if I mean, what you're saying sounds quite important.
Sorry, it's kind of twofold. So it's the tender processes that hadn't taken place. The contract awarded was initially 35,000, but with additional works it went up to 42. So the 2 issues I've got is tender processes aren't taking place because there should be, I looked on the system, there should be a minimum of 3 contractors pricing works over the 25,000. And then the second issue is there was no contract issues. So additional works came in on the project value, which then took it from £35,000 to £42,000. And because there's no contract in place, like for example, a design and build puts all onus and risk liability on the contractor. As there's no contract in place, that risk was put on the taxpayer, and the taxpayer was burdened with the financial implications of additional works. So my point to you, well, my question to you is, what assurances have you got going forward that these processes will be followed? And if they're not followed, what repercussions will be held to the council? Thank you.
I mean, in terms of if you have any particular examples, I suggest you speak in confidence with the Section 151 officer, and I can pick that up with him at my regular meetings. I think some of the detail may be quite pertinent, but that needs to go, I think, through the Section 151 officer. Okay.
I'll do that, thank you. But what assurances going forward will the council make to ensure that these processes, is there a tick box to check that officers issue contracts?
We undertake our work and management accept our recommendations. We then ensure that the recommendations are implemented. So that assurance wouldn't come from me, that would come from the council that they have implemented those recommendations.
Thank you very much. So just final thing, this is my final one, but obviously given that we've accepted all other reports, and based on this one report, obviously issues have been found by Councillor Pullen. Councillor Harris with regards to finances been missed off, given it by error, they have been missed off. Issues raised by Councillor Wiedenhold, and also Declan Wilson making a point that he will be following up concerns around health and safety. And then myself just set out, obviously, the possibility of, obviously, contracts management not being followed through. Would you agree that this report needs additional work in looking into and possibly reissuing to the committee based on all these concerns of members of the committee?
I would say no, Chair, unless you have some information which, you know, is valid and we can most certainly look into it. But on the basis of the work that's presented here, there are specific objectives to each of these audits which have been agreed with management. And they may not have covered all of the issues that you have raised, Councillor Chambers, simply because, you know, the objectives may not have covered those areas. But I'm more than happy if you were to discuss with the Section 151 officer and, you know, if there is some work that we can undertake to provide independent assurance, we'll be happy to look into that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time today. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, you've been asked to resolve to accept the progress against this internal. Do we accept this or do we not? Okay, I think
Chair, for you, seeing as we've got someone who's against it, it might be worth doing a vote. I can do that if you like. Okay. So as the chair, for you, Chair, as the chair said, the Audit and Governance Committee has asked the resolve to accept the progress against the internal audit plan. So we'll go for, against, and abstentions, if that's okay. So those are in favour. Can you please raise your hand for accepting the recommendations in the report? 1, 2, 3, 4. Chair, you?
Yes.
5. Those against? And there's no abstentions then, so it goes back. Thanks, Chair.
On to the next agenda, the Treasury Management Annual Report 2023 to 2024. Could the Head of Finance and Resources introduce the Treasury Management Annual Report, please?
I certainly can. I'll give Pierce a bit of a break from presenting now. Right, yeah, this is the annual report for Treasury Management. For those of you who are new to the committee, this is one of a number of Treasury Management reports that come to this committee on a quarterly basis, reporting our financial management. But obviously this is the annual one for 23-24. If I just give you a couple of the highlights from the report, section or paragraph 3.2 just sets out the amount of funds that the council had available to invest during the period. And paragraph 3.3 sets out how much funds it has available for investing in longer than 1 year. The majority of the council's funds, as captured in 3.2, are on a call basis. So how the council's funding generally works is that we receive funding at the start of the month, which we put away, and then gradually that gets spent every month. So unfortunately, we're unable to put that money away for longer than the 1 month period, just due to cash flow purposes. The table below just sets out how the council is operating with regards to its investments against the benchmark, and as you can see, we just underperformed the 7-day rate based on our investments across the period. Section 4 of the report just captures any long-term borrowing that the council's undertaken during the period, and you can see within 4.1 that the council's taken in the region of £20 million, which was put towards the Forum project, which obviously is an ongoing regeneration project in the city, and it obviously just sets out the interest rates in the paragraph below. And then 5.5 Section 5 just confirms that there's been no debt rescheduling in the period. So this is where we would be rescheduling any of our existing debt due to better rates in the market, which hasn't happened in this period. If I take you on to Appendix 1, that just sets out the prudential and treasury indicators. And as you can see from the table, the council has been operating within those indicators during the year. And then Appendix 2 is some guidance from our treasury advisors, Link Treasury Management, and it just sets out details for members on the likely future interest rates forecasts and what's generally happening across the world, and how that could impact on future decisions that the council has to make. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions on this agenda item? Councillor Burkett.
Thank you, Chair. It may be a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. Section 3.3 on page 192, council performance percentage is only given for 7 days and not the other time periods. There must be an obvious reason why.
Yeah, we don't invest in those other periods. So we as I was just saying, because of the way our cash flow works, we aren't able to invest over 1 month for the majority of our investments. So it's captured within that 7-day benchmark as opposed to on the longer benchmarks.
Based on the 7-day trading, and you're saying that's your facility to trade. So do you sell on the 7th day?
No, so that's the closest benchmark that we've got. So basically, this is money that is on call. So it's not, it's available for us to call back at any point in time. So it could be 1 day, it could be 7 days, it could be 10, 20 days. It's just not over a month, basically.
Thank you. My concern was if you sold on the 7th day and the cost was low, if that was the criteria. So you could potentially day trade if you buy at 8 or something and you sell at 12 or no?
Yeah, no, it's just literally, this is money that's on call. So like a normal bank account, you can access it straight away. Whereas some of the investments you can get are plus 30 days, so you can't get your money out for within 30 days like a fixed term investment. It's purely on call.
Okay. With regards to the investments, is it sort of safe items such as like the UK stock index, or are you going for? Is there a list in that? In other words, is there a list of the businesses and stocks you invest in, or is that not for councillors' eyes?
No, the Treasury Management Strategy sets out the sort of like the counterparty lists that were available to invest with, but these are purely investments with our banking facilities, very vanilla. You know, it's just literally savings accounts. We're not investing that money in anything risky.
Thank you. So, given that the Icelandic bank, the City Council lost around 2 million not that long ago, what sort of safety measures do the City Council take now going forward as risk management to ensure that the vanilla organisations, which they thought the Icelandic bank was, which obviously turned out not to be, are actually vanilla and not high risk?
Very, very much so. I think for anyone who remembers the Icelandic one, you know, it's one of those. You look back at it, it was the rates were, if it looks too good to be true, it's too good to be true. You know, those rates that they were offering compared to UK banks was significant at the time. But the council have a treasury advisor who provide us with regular updates and set out our counterparty limits. So they will, for instance, advise individual organisations what the limit is that we should be investing up to a maximum, and how long we should be investing. So you might get something that, you know, might get a report that says this company is rated blue, so your maximum investment shouldn't exceed £5 million, and that shouldn't be for greater than, say, 20 days, for example. So the council relies on that expert guidance from the Treasury advisors.
Councillor Pullen had a question.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for that, Greg. So I understand that the Treasury Management report is about how the council borrows, invests, and manages its own funding. And it's just a point of clarity, really, from my point of view. At one stage, the council was able to borrow, I think, up to £80 million on the property investment portfolio strategy. That is separate to this, isn't it?
Yeah, so the property investment, property board investment, was a specific investment vehicle, if you like, that was approved by council for the council to borrow up to £80 million to invest. So that'd be separate from this day-to-day treasury management activity.
Sure, that's what I assumed. And do we know, was that 18 million ever spent in totality?
It was the vast majority of it was spent, I believe, Terry. I think if I'm right, I think there's probably 5 million left over in the scheme from my recognition.
Okay, if you could check that and let me know, that'd be helpful. But it was just a point of clarity, really. So thank you.
That's right, and I should just add, really, the 80 million is separate, but if elements of it was held in our bank account at the time, it would be captured within our, we wouldn't just be letting it sit, not doing anything. If we had the money, we would be investing it in the short term until we spent it, basically.
Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Burkett.
I don't have a question anymore, thank you.
Is the committee ready to approve this agenda item? Yes? Yes. Okay, thank you. Going on to agenda item 15, the update on new global internal audit standards. Could the head of audit, risk and assurance give his report?
I can most certainly do this. So we have a set of professional standards, which I mentioned earlier, the public sector internal audit standards, and they encompass, if you like, the global internal audit standards, which are produced by the Global Institute of Internal Audit, which is an American body, but they have affiliates throughout the world, and there is a UK affiliate of which I am a member as well. So they have issued a new set of what's called the Global Internal Audit Standards, and we shall be implementing those throughout this year. We shall nonetheless need to wait until CIPFA have issued a new public sector internal audit standards, because technically that is the one that we have to implement, but the two are very closely aligned. So it's just an update to say that we will be doing that, and you will see that reflected in the charter next year.
Do we need to approve that, or is that just for information?
Just a note.
Going on to agenda number 16, the Audit and Governance Committee Work Programme. Does anyone have any comments on the work programme?
It is what it is. It's the rolling programme that I believe this committee has adopted in the past, and frankly, I see no reason to change it unless other members of the committee have a view or opinion.
That's good. So, last item on the meeting is the date of the next meeting, and that is going to be Monday, the 9th of September 2024. Okay, so I bring the meeting to an end.